What's up, guys? Welcome back to Airbnb ABCs. I was talking with another investor on the Short Term Shop Facebook page, and we were talking about the tangible occupancy tax that you have to pay in the state of Tennessee, or maybe just Sevier County. I'm not really even sure who I pay it to, for all of the items that you have in your cabin. And they were very frustrated with this. Even though it's a very low amount of money for the cabins that I have, it'll all be $41 for the year. If you don't want to itemize everything, add it all up and come up with a number, they just give you the option based on square footage. I think it's like 41, 70, and like 104 or something like that. This person said that they were very frustrated with this, and I can understand this because I've been there starting out when it just feels like everyone wants a little bit of money from you. And she said that there aren't any of the influencers, there's nobody on the podcast or YouTube talking about about these things that are not necessarily making tons of money, having fun, building equity in properties. And so that's what I'm going to talk with you guys about today, are all of the downsides of owning Airbnb rentals, owning VRBO short-term rentals, at least the biggest ones that I can think of, so that you guys have an idea about what you're getting into, in addition to all the massive good things. And we make a lot of money with our Airbnb and VRBO short-term rentals, but there are some big-time downsides that sometimes make you really question everything that you're doing. So before we get into those, hit the subscribe button down below so you don't miss anything that I put out on this channel. Hit the like button for this video, and we're going to get right into the 4 things that I really think just drive me nuts on a regular basis. We're going to start with guests. And the first thing I want to tell you guys about guests is that 95, 98, maybe even 99% of guests are super. They rent the place, they book it instantly. I don't have to talk to them. My automatic messaging takes care of everything. They go down there, they have a great time. They leave the cabins in fabulous shape. We're able to do quick turnover cleans, get on to the next guest. But then there is that 1 to 2, maybe 3% if you're having a really bad week, month, year, something like that just drive you insane. And they're going to take up a lot of your mental bandwidth. They're going to take up a lot of your time for the week or 3 days or couple days that they're there. And that is an upside, by the way, mentioning that versus long-term rentals especially, is that if you do have a bad guest, they're in and out in a relatively short period of time. So even though we're talking about bad things, there are even good parts about the bad things. You don't have to take them to eviction court. You don't have to worry about them paying because they usually pay through the platforms. There are guests that are just going to be very needy. They're going to go in there essentially with like a fine-tooth comb, almost like a home inspection, and just point out everything that's wrong with your cabin. They might be doing this just to defend themselves in case they think that you are going to say that they caused that, or they are just complainy pants and they just want to complain about everything, or 3, they are possibly trying to use that against you to get a discount or a free stay or something like that. And those are going to be the ones that end up being sort of scammers. It maybe not necessarily a scam, but they're just generally dishonest folks that are trying to get something from you for nothing because of just minor things that are out of place. You're going to get those types of people occasionally. Some other folks will just end up being very rude in your communication with them. You're trying to be extremely nice, trying to be polite. You get your customer service voice on, whether it's on the phone or via text, which I like to keep everything via text in the platform so that there is a written record of that. And they're just very rude and off-putting, and you just have those people. If you've ever worked in retail, or if you've ever worked in a restaurant, which I've done both those, or if you've ever worked in public service, which I've done as well, there are just some people that are just naturally rude, and you just have to put up with that. And then there are folks that are generally okay, but they just leave your place very dirty. Your hot tub is filthy. They leave trash everywhere. They might have brought in a pet that wasn't allowed. They might have smoked in the unit. Those ones are just going to make your life a little bit more difficult. It might make your turns a little bit more stressful, and it might cost you some money as far as, replacing stuff, repairing stuff, and increased cleaning fees for things like pets or cigarette or marijuana smoke or anything else. But in general, that's going to be a minority of the time. Most of the time, you're going to have great guests that come and go, pay you your money, and you're on to the next one, and they have a great vacation and leave you a 5-star review. The second thing that really kind of drives me nuts and tends to creep up at almost the worst kinds of times is building issues. The thing that you got to remember about these are vacation rentals. They are houses just like your house, my house. they're going to have problems. Things are going to break. Pipes are going to leak. Washing machines are going to break down. HVACs are going to break down. If you're in an area that has well pumps, those are going to go out. They're probably going to go out at the most inopportune time, probably your highest cost rental in the season or whatever. But you are going to have to end up dealing with those. This year alone, not in 2023, but in a calendar year, I have put in an HVAC. I've replaced an HVAC unit. I have replaced a well pump, which is about a $2,600 job. The HVAC, I think, was about $5,100 job. We had 2 pipes break when Winter Storm Elliott came rolling through from Canada and pretty much took everything from Montana down to the panhandle of Florida below the freezing line. One of those broke outside, one of them broke inside. And now we are doing a floor replacement that's going to cost about $8,000. That one's going to be covered under our insurance policy, but you are just going to constantly have to deal with some sort of building issues. There's always something like this going on with your tenants, because these buildings, especially in busy markets, especially if you have really nice rentals like we do that stay rented almost continuously back to back, almost 100% of the time, these places are just getting beat up. They're going to war. You guys have heard the expression, drive it like a rental. It's, treat it like a rental. People treat these like rentals. And even if you do have fabulous guests to try to take care of the place, there are still just going to be a lot of people coming in and out. Suitcases coming in and out, opening up more drawers, more things than you would normally do on a regular basis, opening fridges, coolers coming in and out. Things are just going to break. You're going to wash sheets probably more often than you would at your own home. If you're having, 2-night stays or whatever, you are doing a lot of laundry. Things are going to get beat up. People are leaving the doors open. The air conditioning's running in the summer. The heat's running in the winter. They're running the fireplace while the air conditioner is on. The buildings are just going to give you headaches. You guys have to have that in mind, that these are things that are going to happen. Not get too stressed out about it. Not get too freaked out about it. If something does fail while you have guests there, again, you just have to put on your best customer service voice. Try to tell them that you are working through it. If it is something catastrophic and they have to leave, get in touch with the platforms. Let them know that you're having a major building failure, and then try to get them rehomed to somewhere else. Try to salvage their vacation, but just do everything that you can. Know that these things are definitely going to happen in the future. The third thing is dealing with these platforms, Airbnb, VRBO. This might actually be my number one, really, because all these other things are kind of within my control, but actually dealing with platforms is almost completely out of my control, other than just calling them and 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 trying to get a resolution to a problem that I'm having. One of the biggest issues is most of these times that I've called Airbnb or VRBO, I have been sent to an outsourced call center. When you end up getting in touch with those folks, they can usually only do a very narrow set of things, and it's probably not the things that you need to do. They can essentially just refer stuff that is beyond just basic questions, just nothing. They have to refer that to a supervisor, to the tech support department, somebody else. You usually cannot call these people directly, and they usually will not put you on the phone with them. So you have to wait for your email to come through. You have to just wait, and there is never any resolution by calling any of these tech centers. Airbnb and VRBO, they have kind of their own separate issues. Airbnb is a very modern platform. It's very easy to use. Like I said, the call centers are not great. VRBO, on the other hand, is kind of extremely difficult to use, and I say that, relatively extremely difficult. It's like they put their site online in like 2012 to 2014 and have essentially never updated since then. And there's a lot of times that they have technical issues with their sites. I had a major technical problem with one of my listings that I ended up just having to delete the listing and relist it on account of all of the technical problems. And they do things on a first come, first serve basis, and you might be 2, 3, 4, 5 weeks out. It took me up to, I think it was 8 weeks to try to get something resolved with the listing that I just mentioned, and in the end, we just ended up deleting it, relisting it, and everything has gone on fine from there. The other thing that's kind of bad about these platforms is the review system. If you have one of these bad guests that we talk about, and they leave you a retaliatory review, For one, Airbnb does have a retaliatory review policy, but if they're good at it, they can craft their review so that it doesn't hit any of the specified things that Airbnb will take down a retaliatory review for. And so they can just torpedo your listing if you didn't give them what they want. If they just want to try to mess with you, they can do that. On vrbo, there's not really any type of retaliatory review policy, and so I have heard that it is extremely hard to get a review taken down after it's been put up, even if it is not necessarily true, even if it's retaliatory, and it's just kind of a thing that you have to work with. And working with these platforms, especially since they are the market, is something that you have to do, but it's something that's also going to end up causing you a headache in the future. Number 4 on my list is the governments, utilities, agencies, anything that you have to deal with to get your place listed and you have to deal with to run the place, like provide electricity, natural gas, propane, water, etc. These places are usually a pain in the butt to deal with. They are usually going to nickel and dime you as far as minor taxation, minor fees, or major fees. For example, in the Sevier County area, when you're dealing with Sevier County Electric Service, you have to put a deposit down when you get your electric service turned on, equal to the double the highest month within the last 12 months. So Sevier County Electric right now is holding probably about 4,000 of my dollars. It's not prorated. It's not a, they're not going to put it on your next bill or whatever. They hold that until you sell the property. And that is just the way that it is. There's no negotiating it. There's no nothing. I'm sure they are holding millions of dollars of people's deposits. But then when you deal with the government, you end up having to get short-term rental licenses. You might have to get some sort of occupancy license depending on where you are in the country. I am only really familiar with the Sevierville, Gatlinburg Pigeon Forge market. There's all sorts of licenses, taxes, and this is what I was talking to the lady on the Short Term Shop Facebook page, and she was very, very upset about this, that it hadn't been discussed at all. So when you are dealing with this, just know that you are going to come across these things. Know that there are going to be any types of fees, taxes, licenses, anything that's going to drive you nuts. They are probably going to nickel and dime you. Probably a lot of these things today that I've mentioned are going to nickel and dime you, but the entire idea is that you're making dollars, or you're making tens or hundreds of dollars. And so these little nickel and dime things that you just have to get through, that you just have to pay to keep the ball rolling, to keep the train on the tracks, are going to be minimal in comparison to the money that you're making on these short-term rentals. And so guys, click on the links that are on the screen right now. They're going to tell you all about the types of properties that we buy, where we buy them, why we buy them, how we manage them from afar, and all the trials and tribulations such as this thing that we're talking about today that not a lot of people are going to mention. I appreciate you guys watching. Hit that like button to really help this video out in the YouTube algorithm. Hit the subscribe button so you don't miss anything in the future. I'll see you in the next one.